Hello, welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube. Myself, Mark Harlow, and Riley Finch. Riley, right, we're in the middle of now a busy summer transfer window. Things looking pretty promising. But rather than talk about transfers, we want to talk today about the ownership, GSB. Now, they've been very controversial over, in the years they've been in charge of the club. But would you say possibly that they're turning the tide a little bit with the fan base? Do you think that maybe they are actually starting to deliver on what they promised? I mean, if we go back to leaving Upton Park, and the promises that were made, be challenging at the top of the league and challenging the elite and all these kind of things they were suggesting. And then obviously we had the move over to the stadium, and let's be honest, it was pretty shocking when we first got there, and not on and off the pitch, everything just seemed to be a bit of a car crash. But David Moyes has now come back into the club. We know the history of that, but it feels like the last couple of seasons we really are progressing as a football club. Just want to put it to you, really, Riley. What's your thoughts on GSB? Do you think that, all right, let's start first of all. What are your thoughts on GSB before those seasons? And then what are your thoughts now? Do you think things are turning for a better kind of mood in terms of the fan base?
Well, I've always been kind of like on the fence about it in a sense. And then when GSB sold Dean Garner, I was completely sort of in the boat where I was like, no, that's it. I'm putting myself out as GSB out. I'm out the closet. But for me, it was But yeah, for me, it was like that was the last straw for me. It just felt like, selling a bit of talent at the time like that, a player who was really kicking on in pre-season and linking up with Haller, who was like, again, a big buy. I mean, previous to that, they spent about 80 million and they backed Pellegrini, which again, you can say, is a good thing that they've tried to do. They've obviously tried to pump money into the football club, but the last couple of seasons, we've been lucky, really. We've spent very minimal money. And we've had talents come in that are amazing. And obviously, Declan Rice coming into the first team, a player who in today's market could cost hundreds of millions of pounds, is the cornerstone of our team. So by no means am I saying that GSB brought David Moyes in to, give us Europe and to sign top talents. And, we are lucky that we've had such good buys in Jarrod Bowen and Souček. And obviously that's from Moyes.
Yes.
But, now what we're seeing now is, GSB are pumping money into the football club. They are backing Moyes like they promised they would. But it's the lion that really is going to underline their legacy no matter what they do, because you can put up as much money as you want. But, sometimes you just want a gesture of goodwill. Sometimes you just want them to be honest, and it feels like they've got so many mouthpieces around, Moyes being an example, and obviously TalkSport being another huge example, that, the relationship I don't think can ever be kind of rekindled.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, I was, like you, when Dean Garner was sold, it was kind of a bit of a nail in the coffin for me with them. I just sort of thought, what's going on? It's because I think what angered me more, it wasn't so much we were letting the youth product go. It was the fact that pre-season with the way he was linking up with Haller was all looking quite exciting, thinking this is, and then all of a sudden we sold him, and it was just, including even Mark Noble, voiced his opinion of it.
Yeah.
But I would say though that, it's two sides to it for me. Okay, so the first part is they brought David Moyes back in, and let's be honest, it's been a great move. Now, okay, you could look at it and say, well, fair play to the board. Well played them. They got the decision right. And okay, let's go down that route and say that. Then, yeah, fair play to the board. I agree with that. But then there's the other side of it. Were they lucky? Was it a cheap option? Was it the case they didn't really want to spend money on another manager? He was out of work. It was just a simple, and it's luckily just worked out quite well for them. At the end of the day, I think it's a little bit of both, maybe. But I suppose if we're going to criticise the board like we have, a lot of us have done over the years, I think sometimes you do have to sort of sometimes hold your hands up and say, fair enough, they've done quite well. David Moyes obviously has been a key reason, I think, for the recent success, but the board still have backed in quite well. And one thing I would say is that I've noticed, and I think most people have noticed in the last couple of years as well, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch, we seem to be operating slightly better. By all means, it's not perfect, and they're not the best owners at all. But they seem to have pulled back a little bit now from the silly media stuff. We don't really see Cameron Brady talking too much these days, and I think maybe they have listened to the fans a little bit. So I would say that I agree. I don't think they're ever going to really repair the relationship completely with the fans. There's always going to be. I think it went a little bit too far in the end, and people just got so fed up. But I would say that there is an opportunity here that they could walk away with a little bit of a decent legacy. If we say that this is their final season in the club, because there obviously is that rumour that it could be with the March, is it March 23, wasn't it? I think it's the date for the stadium, the lease situation regarding the stadium and the rules behind that. And I think it's because they have to pay a certain tax, don't they, if they sold the club to the government. So if let's just say this is their last season now, and they got West Ham in say the top 6, or arguably even change top 4 again, what a way to go, and maybe even get a trophy, and maybe that after all those years of struggle, they would go down as pretty okay owners. What do you reckon to that? Would that be something that you would accept?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing everything right at the moment. They're trying to get safe standing through. That obviously, I mean, they have plans to, get through the doors, stadium sort of reconfigurations. They've brought in, getting Mark Noble back in. I think they've given him a very good send off.
Yeah.
Sort of naming like
Apart
the
from the
award
fireworks,
after him.
are pretty shocking.
Well, yeah, they're pretty naff, but
yeah,
probably could come out of the budget. But I don't know. I think GSB are doing everything right at the moment. They're, giving money to the football club. They're hushing themselves. They're just, they're owners. They're not, transfer experts. They're not managers. They're not coaches. Like they need to stay as owners.
Yes.
I think they are doing better at that. And like you say, I haven't heard Karen Brady spouting rubbish very recently. So that's obviously a good thing.
Yeah.
And leaks seem to be getting maybe a little bit better. I mean, the kit was released a couple of days before it was supposed to be released. Even with like X on Patreon, we seem to find things online even quicker just through leaks, just random leaks, and then obviously X confirms it. But so leaks are still a little bit of an issue. But GSB are doing everything right at the moment, and if it is their last season, the only thing I think to myself is, are there any better owners out there? Is there any owners that I'm sitting like? I mean, look at Chelsea Football Club. Who wouldn't want to buy Chelsea Football Club? And it took weeks and weeks and weeks for them to be bought. Same with Newcastle. They were, was it like 2-3 years? I think they were being put up for sale by Mike Ashley. So the idea that, we're going to get GSB out and then some lovely, owners are going to come in and transform this football club it just doesn't happen. So for me, I'm, the lesser of two evils. I'm quite happy to see GSB at the helm if they're going to keep doing what they're doing currently. Yes, we're never going to be able to rekindle the owner. We're not going to have a Leicester City type ownership. I think they should do more things like free beers at games or just little touches.
Yes.
But realistically, like, who are we going to get in that's going to be better owners? That's going to put up potentially 120 million. That's going to, it's hard to say, really.
It is. I mean, we had the whole. Is it Pi Capital, wasn't it? The whole
I mean, look how badly that went.
And that kind of showed the shambles that are out there, and even when that was kind of going on, we all got a little bit excited when it first kind of materialised, because you're thinking, oh, here we go, new owners and all this excitement. But then when they started making statements, I mean, they couldn't even say the club's name right. They called us West Ham FC. And you're thinking that's an official statement, and you're thinking, and I know, and even a part of me with them was thinking, as much as I wanted GSB to kind of be removed and we'd have new fresh owners, I was actually thinking I'd rather keep them for now if that was the case. And you're right. I mean, there isn't many about. There's not many multi-billionaire people out there that want to buy football clubs. There isn't, because I mean, I'm not a business expert, and but I don't think, although. Yes, it generates a lot of money, football. It also costs a lot, and there's a lot of cost to go. So I don't believe it's a money spinning organisation where you can make a lot of money at the end of it.
You really don't. It's only for the top. Like,
I mean, look at Man City and these Chelsea. Abramovich has lost billions. He's lost billions in Chelsea. And like the City project, I don't think it's there to make money. I think it's more opportunities elsewhere. I don't think someone takes it over to make. It's more of a vanity project. So, and realistically, if you look at that, David Sullivan, really, he's done a good job, really. If you look in business sense, he bought the club for something, was it 70 million? It's probably worth, 10 times that nearly now, and all right, he's spent a bit of money here and there, but ultimately he's going to make money at West Ham when he sells it, inevitably at some point.
Well, yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it, with them, is that they're really good business people. I mean, Karen Brady being on The Apprentice, and like, they're really good business people, but that doesn't necessarily transpire into being good owners. Like you say, you don't always make money off football, so sometimes you have to do bad business.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to lose money. Sometimes you have to just pump money aimlessly in just to get your club to progress.
That's exactly it. And I think that's where we get a bit of frustration. I think because there are some elements. I mean, obviously we've got, a conversation going on here, and this could go on for hours, couldn't it, if you go into every detail. But I mean, I think there's things like the fact that they still charge interest from their loans to the club, and they're taking out millions of pounds. They always go, oh, we don't take a salary. Yeah, you don't take a salary, but you take a few million each year of interest, which... Yeah. I mean, again, you look at it two sides. Fair enough. They were in their right to do that. They've loaned the club money, and they're saying, "Well, I want the money back, and I want to charge a bit of interest on it." There's nothing really wrong in it. But then the other flip side is, well, if you're a fan, if I was a West Ham fan and a multi-billionaire, would I want to be taking money out of the club? No, I don't think I would. But yeah, I think it's hard to draw a conclusion to it, really. But in my mind, but I think for me, they're definitely on a better path than they were. I don't think they're ever going to turn it around ever completely. but I think there's an opportunity for him. I mean, let's be honest. I'll tell you what we could say. Well, I will say is that if they're going to leave this football club, this is probably the best time you're going to do it, because I'm talking like the next sort of year or two, because, you know, we're in a good shape now. We're looking pretty good. You know, if it goes pear-shaped at some point and then they go, people will be going, look, they were terrible owners. But if they left sort of now, you'd think, okay. What's your thoughts on Daniel Kredinsky? Is it Kredinsky? I think he's going to be possibly being the new owner of the club. There's talk about this rumor that he's going to eventually buy David Sullivan out of his shares. Would you be happy if that was to happen?
Well, he's not very liked by the is it Slavia Prague he was at?
I don't know enough about this, but yeah, go on. What do you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of Slavia Prague fans have said he's not a very good owner. Whether that's probably because like he seems to be selling all his best talent to West Ham, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I'm not really totally convinced on him. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the last transfer window we spent very minimal. We spent around like 60 million, 50 million. The transfer window before that, we spent 5 million. The first transfer window, Krasinski's come in. It looks like we're going to be spending possibly like 100 million. So can you attribute that to him? Possibly. And if so, then if he's got the millions to back it, then fair enough. But I think with this kind of thing, you always need like a consortium. You can't just have one person at the helm unless you're someone crazy like Abramovich or the Saudi Arabian prince at Newcastle. You know, you need a consortium to kind of, you know, like the Glazers at Man United, like the people at Liverpool, and like the people who just bought Chelsea is a bit of a consortium, isn't it? Led by, I can't remember his name now.
I know who you're talking about.
I always worry if it's just one person. I feel like having a group of people is always better. But, you know, if you can attribute all this transfer buying success to Krasinski, then, I mean, you know, hopefully it's a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I agree. I suppose, look, all us football fans, all we really care about, let's be honest, is what's going on the pitch, realistically. I mean, obviously, the things like the stadium around it and the shops and all these things and kits and stuff are, you know, they're interesting and all that. But ultimately, we care really, you know, 90% of it's down to what's going on the pitch and the players are bringing in. And let's be honest, that's good at the moment. So my feeling is, yes, it'd be exciting to have new ownership come into the club if they could deliver, but ultimately things aren't that bad at the moment. We're doing pretty well, probably the best shape we've been in for a long time now. So I'm happy just to, if they're going to be here for the next couple of years, I don't think it's a terribly bad thing. Although I do get the impression this is probably a good time for them to start considering going, because they, you know, then they leave a little bit of a decent legacy at least, and can leave their heads held slightly high, you know. But yeah, that's my view on that. What do you think? Anything to add to that, matey, at all?
No, I agree with you. I mean, if I was GSB, I'd be looking to leave soon. I mean, as a fan, I wouldn't want them personally to leave in this period, because it's such a delicate period where we can either lose our momentum and sort of drop down back to mid-table, or we can kick on and stay in sixth for years to come. So for me, I think it's such a delicate transition where I wouldn't want new owners to come in. I mean, look at Newcastle, how much they've struggled in getting a new owner. Like I say, a new owner is not just going to come out of thin air and want to buy West Ham. We have quite a high valuation. You know, look at Chelsea. Like, you'd think champions of Europe, constantly getting a sort of fourth place in the Premier League, always decent cup runs. You'd have thought, you know, someone's going to be in trying to buy them, but it's not that simple. It's not as easy as an owner's just going to come in and buy your club. It's not like a manager. There's not a big pool of a long like waiting line of owners waiting to buy West Ham. And there's no disrespect to West Ham, but it's just not how it works. So for me, you know, if I'm GSB, I wouldn't be opposed to leaving right now. But as a fan, as much as it hurts me to say it, I'm very happy to just have them in and doing what they're doing at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on that. I think ultimately for me, I'm pleased with the way things are at the club at the moment, and I just don't want to rock the boat at the moment. I just feel like the last thing we need is any kind of derailing, especially because this is what we've all been craving for so many years, you know, forever really, in terms of how well we're doing. And we seem to be on the right track. And let's be honest, this summer's showing that. Yeah, so I think ultimately for me, I'm quite happy to stick with the way things are, unless, of course, an owner does come forward that can really push us on further. But yeah.
Totally.
Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll speak soon. Cheers.